I'm Sam the Gassique.
And I'm Dreadful Dan Gallagher. And we're two old buddies that have lived our life at the edge of the mainstream.
So come join us where things are a little odd. This is the
You've got to believe.
It's alive! It's loose!
This earth of yours will be reduced to a burned-out cinder.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Oddcast, Movies, Music and Gaming. And here I am with my old buddy Dan, Dreadful Dan G. How are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. Hello to Sam and to the Oddbods, the listeners of Oddcast.
It makes me think of, what was that cartoon show where it was all the old toys?
The Raggy Dolls.
Raggy Dolls. Raggy Dolls. Raggy
Sad
Dolls.
sack.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not suggesting that anyone that listens to this is a sad sack. If anything, they're on the cutting edge of modern entertainment.
If they knew the Raggy Dolls reference, then they are definitely on the cutting edge of modern entertainment. Like some shitty 80s fucking cartoon which no one watched.
Hey, it was not shitty. There was a really dark episode of that. Episode.
But the idea of it was quite dark, wasn't it? That is the idea of these like toys that were basically off the production line because they were wrong. So heads were the wrong way around or whatever. So they're just left in this bin, just discarded. And that's what they made friends. Raggy Dolls. Raggy Dolls, dolls
Tale of
like
Redemption.
you and me. What was the dark one you were thinking of?
Oh, one of them got bought by a really horrible child, and they were concerned about his like well-being. So they go to rescue him, and I think it was the princess one, and this like kid had like ripped its head off and stuck it all back to front, and it was it was a rough episode.
Oh my god! Did you ever get over that?
Well, it's lodged in my brain, so maybe not.
It's quite a horrific incident. It's quite perfect for what we're about to talk about. It's a nice little segue into it. But before we get into it, what have you been listening to, watching? Oh, we were talking, weren't we, about so Mets are doing we've done an episode on, but who me and Dan have seen a few times, are doing a virtual gig mid-October. And I bought their package deal, which was £49. It's £8 to stream. I don't know how much it is in dollars. It's £49 for the streaming ticket, whatever. The LP of the new album, Atlas, Venting, whatever it's called, a T-shirt and a poster. And I thought it was pretty good for 50 quid.
I like a good poster. Not to put on the wall, but it's just a nice thing to have in the package.
Well, I quite liked how it looked, like the design of it, so I was quite happy to buy it.
Are you going to frame it up?
I might frame it. I framed our last Mets one. That's in my hallway, so it makes sense.
Snap.
Did you?
Yeah, I've got that same poster.
Yeah.
From, I can't remember which show it was.
I can't remember either.
No, we've been to a few now.
Yeah, it's true.
Probably five or six.
Have you been listening to anything else?
I've been trying to catch up on some 2020 stuff. So I'll definitely give that new Mets one a listen. I don't know, have you seen this Fiona Apple album that's been getting a lot of attention?
Nope.
So, I kept seeing it on Instagram, so I thought, maybe I should give that a listen. I never listened to any of her stuff in the 90s. I just sort of, my impression was kind of like gentle indie folk, so I gave it a listen, and I quite enjoyed it, but it got a bit samey halfway through.
Right.
And it sounds kind of like a quite intense, upbeat indie album from maybe 10 years ago.
Okay.
Like interesting rhythms, and kind of like, it sounds like it's been recorded in a bedroom, but it's actually very high-end production. But it's kind of like a bit DIY, like the drums sound like pencils and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, but it's like really confessional style.
Right.
So there's quite a lot of like, stuff about relationships and all this that's quite bare and stark. And like, frankly, for me, I found it a bit too much. Like, like confessional style stuff it can be really difficult because it might be very earnest and sincere, but sometimes it doesn't pass very well, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like it can sound like a angry teenager, you know. And sometimes bits of this sounded like to me like Alanis Morissette or something.
Yeah.
But, you know, she was in her 20s and Fiona Apple's in her 40s. Anyway, but I thought, like, there's one song in particular which says something like, "Rape me here where our first baby was born," or something like this. And I just thought, like, bit OTT, you know, OTT. But I thought, like, you know, God save any white man who criticizes this album.
Really?
And then I went, after I listened to it, I went online to see what people are saying. Of Pitchfork have given it a perfect 10 out of 10, which they hardly ever do. Which is like, to me, you know, there's a bit of an agenda on show.
Right.
But I saw Anthony Fantano, the Needle Drop, gave it like a strong 6 to a light 7. And there's just all these comments, people saying he's a misogynistic bastard. You don't understand. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's not a surprise. I always remember with Fiona Apple, there was a TV show many a moon ago, and basically it was kind of taking celebrities from different disciplines and just having them hang out with each other. And I'm pretty sure it was Fiona Apple, and it was with Quentin Tarantino. And it's weird. So they kind of, I think their idea was that they're supposed to be friends anyway. And I remember it was the first time I'd seen Tarantino outside of just like a normal interview setting, if that makes sense. So like real life Tarantino or whatever. And I was like, he is coked up to his eyeballs. He is actually insane. And just weird and like being a bit creepy with her and all this stuff. Because she's only this like, you know, little blonde thing. I'll probably get, you know, thrown into the wolves now for just saying that. But it's in like she looked basically just very innocent, and then just Tarantino, it's just this like hot, sweaty old man mess, even back then. And I remember like watching that and thinking, yeah, Fiona Apple just looks like, I didn't really, same as you, never really listened to music, but I was like, she seems like really like nice and actually, you know, cool and smart and whatever. Not that I thought any different or anything I just didn't know anything about her. And Tarantino, who was like my hero, I was like, this comes off as a complete idiot. And I always remember that about Fiona Apple.
When I was Googling her, that's one of the things that comes up all over the internet is some article about when she decided to stop doing cocaine.
Right.
And it was after some sort of night with Tarantino. It was
after shooting that episode.
Possibly. That's what I'm thinking now. I didn't read any of the articles because it's too sensationalistic for me. But
it wouldn't surprise me, honestly, because it's like he just comes across. I mean, I know like his whole thing is that he talks fast and whatever, and he's hyper intelligent or whatever. But I don't know. I was just watching, just going like, he just looks like a coked up like wannabe filmmaker who's actually made it.
Awful.
Yeah, it's weird. So it's enough to pick anyone off coke, I imagine, especially her. That's interesting though, that's a thing.
The other album I've been listening to is the new OCs,
right?
Called Protean Threat. Yeah, it's just coming out this week, I think.
Right.
Seems really good. The last one was quite like long and kind of like a bit proggy and jazzy.
Mm-hmm.
This one's a bit more. It feels. I've only listened to it once, but a bit more straight for the jugular.
Good.
But I managed to pre-order a really nice copy through Rough Trade, who actually have some really nice like exclusive variants. And this one, it's like it's cool color. It's like luminous pink, but it comes with a CD.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they've done this before, but John Dwyer has actually compiled like a kind of like best of up until now, get to know the OCs kind of thing. So that's quite a cool little freebie.
That's weird. It's interesting.
Yeah. Because I don't know them all that well, so there's quite a lot of spots in my like having listened to their back catalogue.
Yeah.
That's quite fun.
Yeah, that's cool. Cool, yeah. You've been anything else that you've been interested you? Not really.
That's about it.
Yeah. No, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I haven't listened to much, to be honest. I've been watching more of The Boys, which is good. I don't know if you saw, but Succession, which I've been banging on about, won really big at the Emmys, I think it was.
Oh, yeah.
no surprise really. But now, like, a lot of people are turning around to me going, "Oh yeah, Succession is really good, actually, isn't it?" And it's like, it's only because it's won like 5 Emmys that it's suddenly like I've been banging on about it. Not for too long because I've only just watched it, but I kind of got in under the wire there before it became really cool. And what I've been doing, I've been playing games a little bit. I played there's a game called Among Us, which you'd probably like, actually. You can get it on mobile for free, but it's got ads or whatever. You can get it for like £3 or something on Steam. And basically what it is that you have to play with a bunch of people. It can be randoms or it can be like your mates or whatever. And you're essentially, I think it's up to 7, and you're on a spaceship. And the idea is that you're trying to you're going around doing little mini games and odd jobs to kind of help your ship reach its destination. But you've got an imposter there who's going around slowly killing you all, and sabotaging all these different elements. And basically, if someone finds a body or wants to make a report, like, the game basically stops, and then you all have a discussion to decide who you think the imposter is. You all vote, and then someone gets jettisoned, basically, and it tells you whether they're the imposter or not.
I like this. It
It's
sounds
really
good.
good. It's really addictive as well. So, like, I've played it. I played it with some like workmates during work. I've done it a couple of times now, and it's just so funny because it's obviously like there's that personal element to it where you're just like, this person's like,
Let's get rid of them.
liar. No, not let's get rid of them, but just like, it's kind of like, because you only know these guys in a professional environment or whatever. And now you're like accusing them of being like, no, you're fucking lying or whatever. But in a jovial manner. And it's free. It's free on mobile, I believe. So it's worth playing. But yeah, especially if you're doing it with a bunch of mates that you know. So yeah, we're doing a bit of that. I've been playing a game called Tell Me Why, which is by the Don't Nod people who did Life is Strange series. And I'm on the last chapter, the 3rd chapter of that. And it's pretty good. It's all right. I quite like these just like story focused games where I have to basically like push up or do some little bits and pieces, and I don't really have to think about it too much. And it's more about the emotional kind of like storytelling than anything else. It just makes it a bit of an easy play. And the other game I played was a puzzle game called The Room Old Sins. And The Room there's been 3 or 4 of them. And it's basically a mobile thing that's been around for ages, but you do.
Is this a tie into the film, The Room?
No. Yeah, Tommy Wiseau. Old Sins. He is the old sin. He's been around forever. Satan himself. It's it's a touchscreen like puzzle thing, but it's quite cool because it's all just it's quite interactive with the way that you can solve the puzzles, and it makes you use your brain, and it's just completely like fucking zen. Like, you can just zen out and just do the little puzzles, whatever. But it's also a bit nice. Horror, a little bit. And I completed that. I did that in like a few hours. So I just sat there and just smashed it out. But that's it. I haven't listened to anything or watched anything particularly interesting. But one of the things that I did watch, which is for this podcast, was what we're going to discuss, which is Ichi and Scratchy. No, Ichi the Killer.
どういうこと？親父消えたんだよ。絶対見つけるから。
復讐できるんだ。
じゃあどこだ？
イチってやっぱ化け物みたいなやつですね。
早くこいつに会いたいよ俺。愛がないなお前の暴力には。
Ichi the Killer. You'd seen this before as well, right?
Yes, a long time ago. Basically when it came out, I think, or thereabouts.
Yeah.
But when I watched it this time, I realised that I could remember nothing.
Yeah.
Which doesn't surprise me, actually.
Yeah, I remember like key bits, but I didn't remember the story at all. So it was quite nice likewise. Actually to watch it and be like, oh yeah, I forgot. Like, and it moves quite a very quick pace.
Too quick, some might say. Honestly, I found this a bit of a chore to get through.
Oh really?
I did find it difficult. Yeah, I mean, my overarching feeling is that it's very stylish. But that pace, I mean, that feels very much of its time.
Yeah.
That like high octane things happening. Then we move over here, new characters, bam, 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 and then like heavily stylized violence. And I'll be honest, I found it a bit hard to follow.
Yeah.
My aging adult mind was like, "Who's this now? Then who's he?" But I was a bit like. Halfway through, I just feel a bit tired out, and like, I definitely feel sort of like desensitized and numbed to any impact from like the wacky stuff or the gore.
Yeah, I can understand that. So yeah, I should probably just do a general introduction. Well, firstly, why is it odd? Well, it's odd for many reasons. Go on.
Let's go back and forth and give some odd things that happen in this film.
Okay, it's odd because a man has slits in the side of his cheeks, basically, that he smokes through, and that he can also open up to catch a fist between his teeth. That was odd.
That was ridiculous. It's like, just because you've got slits in your cheeks, it doesn't mean that you can like detach your jaw and open your mouth like a fucking snake.
Also, I was like, surely his cheeks would just heal. Like, why are they just healing? Like this, yeah. So that was one thing. Go on, your turn. What was another?
It was cool when the smoke came out, though.
Yeah, I like that. That was cool. Yeah. What was another
it's
thing?
strange because because the title sequence sees the name of the film emerging from a puddle of semen.
Yeah, literally, it comes out. It's awful. God, why else is it odd? It's odd because it's odd. It's odd. Well, there's so many reasons. One thing is odd because the man cuts out his own tongue. That was pretty odd. Yeah. I suppose it's also like odd, just doing another one, because even though it's completely and utterly horrifically violent and at times hard to watch, it's actually quite funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely. Well, I think it's a comedy, really. Or a black thriller, I don't know. Yeah. There's definitely a humorous element running through all of it.
Yeah, I think that comes from, so part of what, this is based on a manga, we should say, that I've not read. I don't know if you've read it.
No.
People, like everything, say that the manga's super good. And of course it would be, because I wouldn't have made a film out of it. But yeah, for people that don't know, it was released in 2001, it's Japanese, and it's directed by this guy called Takashi Miike, who is one of the most prolific directors, well, ever, of all time, I'd say. He does like sometimes 1 or 2 films a year, which is mad. And, a lot of those are really good as well. And yeah, it's basically about this. Christ. No, let me try and see if I can sum this up. It basically is about this yakuza boss who gets killed, and they're trying to find out who did it. We as the audience know who did it, and it's a man called Ichi. And we'll try and keep this spoiler free to begin with, and we'll kind of go into spoilers. Or should we just go into spoilers now? But it would be best do it now because it's going to be hard. So if you haven't seen it and you want to see it, turn off now. Just telling you to leave it. There's not much else I can do about it, is there? Just go. Otherwise, if you've seen it or you're not really bothered, then keep listening. But it's about so this guy who was like the boss's right-hand man, you want to say, is searching for him. The person that killed the boss is this guy called Ichi, who's dressed like a roller derby extra or something. What was that, like Rollerball or whatever that fucking sci-fi film was? And he's got a blade in the back of his heel that he basically slices people up with. But he is a pathetic loser who gets hard. He's basically a sadist. He gets hard by, everything, it seems, but he enjoys watching people in pain, I guess. And he wants, like, God, it's just so weird. The whole thing is just all about sex and BDSM, basically, and all this stuff, and sadomasochism. And so whilst he's had memories implanted into him by this guy called Gigi, he's a bodybuilder. But it's just revealed at the end when he takes his like jacket off, and he's like completely tank. And he's implanted these, which is a really funny, stupid bit. He's implanted these memories into Ichi that you don't find out that they're implanted until the end. So that he goes out and he kills the bullies who raped this girl, which he saw when he was younger, which didn't happen. It's just in his head. So he's being manipulated to go and just basically kill all these people from rival gangs or for money, whatever, etc., etc. But the guy who's looking for the boss finds out that, the boss is dead and all this stuff, and finds out about Ichi, and he's after Ichi. But he's excited because this Ichi guy is just like slicing people up left, right, and centre. And this, what's his name? Kakihara, I think it is.
Kakihara.
He's the guy with the slits in his face and all this stuff. So weirdly, he's like in all the promotional stuff about it, and he's not Ichi the Killer. That's someone else. But so he is looking for the boss's killer, not only to get revenge, but he's kind of basically, he gets off on pain. And the reason why he loves the boss so much isn't some homoerotic thing, even though that's part of it. It's because the boss would beat the shit out of him. And he's in this search for someone who can basically give him like the ultimate pain pleasure thing, a bit like Hellraiser. So he's after Ichi because of that kind of interests him, and it's kind of turning him on a bit. And there's other things that are kind of going on, but that's essentially it. So it's kind of like the whole thing is building up to these two meeting, which happens at the end. But there's like a side thing with this ex-cop who's now like a yakuza heavy, who has a son. And he's kind of supposed to be like the redeeming part of the film, I guess. And he's kind of involved as well because he's working for Kakihara, but he is unknowingly friends with Ichi by trying to like save him and all this stuff. And he's like the kind of heart of the piece, I guess. And that's it, really, in terms of the story.
Well, with him, it's like a coincidence, isn't it? He finds Ichi being kicked in the street and just kind of, he doesn't know who he is, but he kind of shows him kindness.
Yeah.
And so, but what he doesn't realise is that his son has also had a chance altercation with Ichi.
That's right, yeah.
So the son is being bullied, so he's kind of like a parallel to like Ichi's fake memories about himself. And it's quite a good moment where he kicks all of these little kids. And then at some point he does tell him that his name's Ichi. So there's that moment then when, so the kid kind of like has a bit of, like idolizes him a bit.
Yeah.
And then obviously that all plays out in the final kind of like scene of the film, which, no, maybe that final scene, but we'll come to that, right? I think that's the message of the film is, violence begets violence.
Yeah, cycle of
loop
hate.
Never ends.
Yeah, exactly. One thing you mentioned, which is immediately apparent, is the kind of like style of the piece, and it was very much of its time. So it's it's, to be honest, like at the time it works. It has dated, but I do like the fact that he's mixing it up a little bit. So I guess there's a lot of like weird cuts. He kind of like oversaturates the image. He throws in some grain in there. It's really super fast. So it's like a music video. He sometimes uses like the fisheye lens, which was just, everywhere. So there are points where he's trying to make it look like a music video or something from MTV, but Japanese like MTV, if that makes sense. Because if you look, it's all very much kind of that style, like hyper real or whatever people want to call it. there is that. I quite like the way that he presents Japan as like this gritty, horrible. It's all like the back streets of Japan. It's not like the nice glitzy shiny bit. This is like the horrible bits, but it's punctuated by like the characters and the colour and the blood and stuff like this, which makes it quite visually interesting. So it does feel like a comic book, almost like these characters are painted upon like the gritty Japan as a canvas, which makes it kind of, I don't know, like ping a bit more mentally and visually as well, which I thought was quite cool.
Yeah, good points. Yeah, it does. It definitely has that comic book vibe.
And there's especially the bits like, so when he like, there's loads of blood, like there's blood, gore, guts, whatever, and we'll kind of go through it a little bit more. But what I love is that when they like slice a neck or whatever, it's got that of like blood that's in a lot of anime and in the manga comics or whatever, where it's like someone's turned on a hose or something. Yeah. It's ridiculous, really OTT and cartoony. And that's the thing with all this violence. It's just super, super cartoony. And there's just blood like just spraying everywhere. And I really, really like that aspect of it. One thing, Dan, as well, just before we get into it properly, is as you and me watched the dubbed version, right? Which is weird because it's dubbed. It's a British dub. So it's dubbed. It's not American dub. They're English actors. Kakihara, I swear, was Clive Owen. To the point where I don't think I've Googled it properly yet. But I was like, it's Clive Owen. And then I was thinking, what was he doing in 2001? I was thinking, croupier.
Probably this.
Yeah, exactly. Like he probably wasn't that big an actor. So by all means, he could have done it. I should Google it, but it sounds, I'm not kidding, it literally sounds exactly like Clive Owen. And also the fact that they're all like Cockney gangster, lock stock kind of acting or whatever.
Terrible.
I was thinking, it probably is Clive Owen. You know what? I'm gonna just quickly Google it now. But watching it with that dub was just
awful.
So great.
It's not great. I think that was probably a contributor to it being a bit of a chore. I mean, obviously, ideally, I'm guessing both of us would have preferred to watch it with subtitles.
Yeah.
But I did think, I mean, this seems particularly bad. It was those like, lock stock kind of voices. It's just terrible, really. And they're all just like really flat and dull, and it just was ridiculous.
Yeah. You're right. It was, but I did actually
You got a strange kick out of it.
Yeah.
How terrible it was.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking. It doesn't say. It literally doesn't say anything about Clive Owen doing Ichi the Killer dub. I can't find anything on the actual dub. But I'm telling you, you listen to it. I tell you what, I'm gonna play a little bit now, and the people at home can decide whether or not it's Clive Owen. I'm gonna stick some in, and then I tell you what, I'm gonna stick some in of the film, and then I'm gonna stick some in of Clive Owen talking. Okay, and you tell me it's not the same.
There is something inhuman about this carnage. Most people have a touch of both sadism and masochism inside them, but this Ichi is 100% pure sadist. I can't wait to meet him.
Yeah, but he'll come here anyway, won't he?
There's no pattern to it. It's all just a game. If I'm not ready to die when he comes, I'll become increasingly desperate. But if I know he's coming, I'll do all I can to stop him from killing me. So you'll tell me where Ichi is, even if you don't want to.
You shouldn't smile.
Fuck off.
I'm a doctor. I'm supposed to say things like that.
You want one?
No. Yes. No. Fuck it. Yes. No. I've given up. Someone tells me your bloke wrote a book. Any good?
Of course.
It's about you, isn't it?
The evidence is damning.
It's Clive Owen. It's Clive fucking Owen.
Let's message him about this. Let's get a movement going. Everyone tweeting at Clive Owen with some kind of hashtag.
The last thing I saw him in was it Valerian and the 9 Holes of Madness, or whatever it was called. It's fucking the futuristic thing by Luc Besson. Oh god, it's dreadful.
That sounds shit. I haven't seen it. I don't know.
It was awful. He's a bad guy in it and just completely 2-dimensional. Oh god, terrible. It is totally Clive Owen, I would say. My humble opinion. But I was just watching it, just thinking, it's Clive Owen. It's Clive Owen. It was really funny. Okay, well, let's move on from that. I made some notes as I was going through it, and there's some questions I have, and you might be able to help me.
Sounds good.
I should say, like, the character of Kakihara, whatever his name is, I thought was quite cool. Like, the scars on his face, it's all, he's like bright blonde hair, his weird clothes and all this stuff. He felt like the most well-rounded, like, character in that.
Yeah.
I liked the idea he's got this, like, devotion towards his boss, and then you find out there's kind of like a sexual sadomasochistic side to it. He's genuinely quite funny. I like the way he is completely psychotic, like, but also there's an element of, like, it's that thing, it's kind of like that anti-hero thing, because he's essentially the protagonist and also the antagonist.
Yeah, that's what's going on in this film with those two characters. And it's the same sort of thing that I've seen in other anime, and I think in Death Note especially, where you've got like L and Light, and they're kind of like two sides of the same coin, and neither one's really the good guy or the bad guy. Like, they're both deeply flawed.
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously he is probably the more charismatic, and obviously the producers picked up on that and made him the center point of all the like marketing and all the visuals and everything of the movie. But yeah, you definitely kind of like look forward to him appearing on screen, don't you? And he's got all the best moments and all the best, like, ridiculous bits of gore.
Yeah, I think as well, like, he's strong, but obviously his weakness is like people inflicting pain on him, whereas Ichi is weak with his strength being inflicting pain on other people, if that makes sense. So they are like opposites, and they flip as well within their own kind of arc. But yeah, it was super interesting. He's like extrovert, Ichi's introvert, and all this. I also liked there was Karen. She's like such a great nothing name. Who was he was just generally like weird character, but I like the way she was like as fucked up as like the rest of the cast. And she also, I don't know, I remembered it from when we saw it before, but obviously on the dubbed version we watched, it was dubbed anyway, but she actually speaks English through a fair chunk of this in the original Japanese one, if that makes sense. So in the actual film, the Japanese film, she talks English in it, which is kind of like supposed to be one of her like quirks, as it were. And yeah, she's
a bit kind of like, she's like exotic.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a bit femme fatale and like psychotic as everyone else, and also, there's an element where like I didn't really understand. So maybe you can answer this for me. This is jumping ahead, but like she's doesn't really care where the boss is. She's like, oh, whatever, he's probably dead or whatever. And Kakari's like, you guys like that, you're his woman. And she's like, oh, whatever, he's probably dead. Like, forget about it. And then she gets like taken by Gigi, who's the unassuming guy in the jacket who controls Ichi, and she's kind of just like cool with everything. And then she goes to meet Ichi, and she plugs herself into memories by telling him that she was the girl that had got raped that he watched when he was a kid, which was completely make believe. And then she basically sucks him off. There's a thing where she's like, oh, and swallows it, and then he basically there's that scene where it's like she's just gone way in over her head for whatever reason, and then he's like, she's like, yeah, I wanted to get raped. See, okay, cool, got him hard and sucked him off and made him blow his load or whatever, and then he's like, right, okay, so you want me to kill you? I get it. You don't want me to kill you, which means that you do. And she's like, no, seriously, don't kill me. And he's like, I get it. Okay. And then you're like watching it going, oh God, like she's unleashed that horrible side of Ichi. And she gets killed. But the whole thing I was thinking of, and Dan, maybe you can answer this for me. Why was she doing that in the first place? I don't understand. Why was she meeting with Ichi? And why did she just want to suck him off? I didn't get it.
I think, so Gigi, this manipulative guy, the old face and the rock solid bod.
Yeah.
He's talking to her. I don't know if they're just like friends somehow.
Right. Or in it together or something.
Or if he like particularly does this to sow a seed. But I think it just comes up genuinely that he says, like, I've worked with Ichi and I've planted these memories.
Yeah.
And one of them's this like rape fantasy.
Yeah, no, he's like, Ichi's obsessed with it. Like, I think I've gone too far. I think he says at one point. I think I've gone too far. He's just got completely obsessed over this rape one.
But then when she hears like that piques her interest, and she's like, "Oh, tell me more," because I think basically she's just like curious about it, like sexually curious. And I think at that point she's like, "Oh, did you do that?" Because she said, "Oh, did you do that to me?"
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So at some point maybe he's done something similar to her in the past, but he said, "Oh, I would never have done that." But for some reason she's like, she likes this idea. So I think she does it for her own sexual kicks.
It's a kink, yeah.
So she's like, oh, you tell me what the fantasy is. Because she said, oh, well, tell me more, tell me about it. So I think that's he tells her what that fantasy is, and then she goes to him, and because she knows that if she pretends that she's that girl and they can relive it, and then she's like, then I wanted you to come and
do it to
rape me.
Yeah.
And then he obviously misinterprets the whole thing, and that's all quite
fucking. Well, he slices it. So this is also that on that scene. He slices her leg off first, which is quite funny.
Yeah,
and
she's
hopping around, and then she like has this like, and there's this weird cut where it goes back to the flashback of the girl getting raped, but it's as if she's remembering it, and then she's like, oh God, or like as if she's just remembered it, and then she dies, and I was like, what happened there? And I was like, is it that they're like, did it? I don't know. I was like, why is she remembering his flashback that doesn't exist?
Another layer.
Yeah.
I didn't pick up on that.
I was thinking it could be one of two things. One, it did happen and she was that woman, which in its own weird twisted way with that Gigi guy could be possible.
Yeah.
Or it's that she's just realised that she's been like hypnotised or whatever, or led to do that. Maybe by Gigi anyway. Maybe there's some kind of like mind control thing where, because he says like, he's having a tough time and he can't come. And then they talk about hypnosis and then suddenly she's going to do it. So maybe she got hypnotised to go and do it. And then she's realised at that point that she was hypnotised. And she's like, oh, fuck, I'm fucked. Actually, I'm dead. Because now I'm about to get killed. I've realised. I don't know.
Could
Do you
be
know what I mean?
case.
Maybe.
Could be. I think that was a little bit of information in the film that I just went, oh, I can't handle interpreting that. And I just forgot it immediately.
Yeah.
Just pushed it out of my head.
Yeah.
Not convenient.
No, which is absolutely fair enough. But there might be something that's in the manga. And if anyone's read it, please do.
Yeah, I got the feeling with a lot of this, like I say, I was a bit confused and things are moving at a pace. I thought, I bet a lot of this is far better handled in the manga. Because, as well, things like that whole, like the psychology of that scene, and even the whole sadomasochism of the other guy. I keep forgetting his bloody name. What's his name?
Kakihara, whatever.
Kakihara. All of that felt a bit tokenistic and a bit ham-fisted, the way it was handled. Was like, and that's quite important, is that you believe in that. They're like the depths of that sort of psychology.
Yeah.
And it was all just a bit too, slapdash. It was like, okay, I get the premise. I didn't quite really believe that they were, really felt what they were expressing around all of that.
Yeah, I think because it's on that line, right, of being completely OTT and cartoony and comical.
Yeah.
But it's like, are they real characters or not?
Yeah.
He kind of toes that line, I should say. And I've just going back to my notes and just put at the beginning when you first see Ichi, apart from the the death bit at the beginning, or whatever. He's like, he's like a waiter or something. And he serves these women. And he's just completely like scared of them, like completely scared of women. And then like his colleague just gives him a knife and it's just like, kill yourself. And he's like, I'm sorry. He's like, no, the only way I'll forgive you is if you kill yourself, just die. I was just watching it going like, it's so weird and random, but just also comical. The idea of this, like, of your colleague, of someone that you work with, just giving you a knife, just telling you to kill yourself is horrible. But that's the thing. So immediately it's like this victim thing, and he cries about everything. And the idea is that you want to like, you want to punch him basically, because it's, he's just so pathetic and lame and all this stuff that he basically like deserves it. And I think that's kind of, stuff like that. You think, oh God, that's horrible and whatever. But there's that part of you that's just like, God, like, I think everyone knows someone that has been a bit like that, like a bit of a wet blanket, a bit of a wet tissue, and is basically asking for it or something like that. But yeah, obviously it's like taken to the extreme. I was also like thinking, and this is me putting another stupid interpretation over it, but the fact that like he's inflicting all this horrible violence, basically crying as he does it, and this kind of voyeuristic nature of it, I was like, he's kind of almost like a stand-in for the audience / the director or something like that, as in like causing this violence that you're like, if you paid a ticket and you're watching it, like you've caused this violence to happen. As a director, you're making it happen, and you don't want it to happen. You're like crying as you're kind of watching it, but also willing for it to happen in its own weird way. You're enabling it almost. I might be reading way too much into it, but I quite liked the idea of that theory.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair to say. And like when I was reading around it, a lot of people make a claim that it's a comment on violence in the media, don't they? Although that's quite convenient as well. I think it's quite nice for a director to be able to say, my super hyper-violent film is a comment on violence in the media.
Yeah. Well, also,
have my cake and eat it.
Yeah, Takashi Miike, like generally, I think he's one of those people where it's like the violence is so extreme, it's unreal, if that makes sense. And I think he's very clear, like, he does the same as Notorious, for instance. It's got all that kind of like gushing, stupid, comical blood. And that's like a kind of a serious samurai flick. And he's done a few samurai bits, which is the same. It's all like blood and gore. But for him, it's more like you've got a gritty, real drama of someone going around like beating the shit out of people or whatever, and killing innocent people, whatever. And that's like the true horror, whereas this is just like stupid, unbelievable gore. And I think there's an element of truth in that, and the fact that he does portray all this stuff not as a like hostile torture porn thing, even though, I would still say that there's an argument for that, but because he's put like a comical tone on it, it becomes a bit silly and stupid. So if you're looking at it and kind of offended by it, I think you're kind of doing it wrong. Basically, you're watching it wrong. It's not, I don't think it's there for like comical / dramatic effect rather than being like, this is like real horrible stuff. It's just so OTT, which I liked about it. I thought it was stupid in that way.
One of the main points in the film, which I thought sort of encapsulated that, and this idea that you've suggested about, like being a stand-in for the audience or the director, is that moment where you see him finally, after, he's been talked about, itchy, you finally see him at work when he's saving that prostitute from the pimp.
Yeah.
So you get this great, like, oh, he's the hero moment where he kills the pimp. And you're like, great, he's going to save the girl.
Yeah, well, especially because just to jump in, because it jumps around in time a bit, doesn't it? Because you see that at the start, and then he's basically remembering it. There's also a bit in the middle where he goes to see the prostitute or whatever that's been beaten up, and she sucks him off. She's like, I'm always getting beaten up. You're the only person who comes to see me because my face is a mess or whatever. She's just bruised up to fuck. But he obviously gets off on that. So you've seen that. Yeah. So when it happens and you're seeing the full scene play out, then it's and then go on. So just to kind of give it a bit of context.
Yeah, then the reveal then is, you think, great, he's going to save her, and he goes, "Now I'm going to rape you and like beat you up." What does he specifically say? Like, I'm going to bash your face or something.
Yeah, something like that, but like with a big smile, and she's like, "Okay." She grabs a baseball bat and starts swinging it. And then he slices her neck, and that's when the first proper like blood coming out.
He's got this great dopey look on his face as well, like a Labrador puppy. Like, I've done a good thing. It's like when a cat brings you a dead rat, and you're like, thanks for that. Yeah. You didn't. It's not so great.
Yeah, this is actually horrific.
Like that.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. That bit was
like, no, I'm going to rape you.
Yeah, most horrible way. Like that's again, as you said, it plays into like the hero anti-hero thing, and that's what's weird about the whole thing is that you're like, with Kakihara or whatever, you're like, I kind of want him to find Ichi, and I also don't, if that makes sense, for many reasons. But I quite enjoyed that, moral ambiguity between these characters who you're not sure whose side you're on. And it's even like with that Gigi guy, he's quite funny. He's like, when he goes and he's like, I think it was this Mr. Suzuki guy. And then they've got that horrific / great scene where they've got this Suzuki guy hung up by his flesh on these like meat hooks. And then he's just like putting all these like pins, like clothespins or whatever they are, through his like needles basically. These long needles that are like 10 inches or whatever, through his like face and his cheek and his head. And then he pours like boiling oil, whatever, on him as he's been hung up and all this. And he's basically torturing him and like sticking his nipple and his fucking dick or whatever. And and then the other yakuza guy comes in, he's like, what the fuck are you doing? It's like, Gigi told us that he'd been saying stuff about us or whatever. They turn around and there's no one there. The seat's empty. It's just fucked off. It was great. But that whole scene was like, was quite difficult to watch, but I quite enjoyed the fact, that it kind of ends on that comic note. But yeah, the Gigi guy is like really fucking harsh to Ichi. And I think there's this whole thing with like power and sex and all this stuff. And that people, and it's weird because it's kind of like transcends sexuality, as in like there's no gender boundaries or like, there's nothing like gay or straight or whatever about it all. It's the idea, it's like Foucault kind of style of like getting turned on by power, basically. And it's
more power and control, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting. But yeah, that Gigi guy is like, when he's like shouting at Ichi, and Ichi's like, my dick's hard.
Yeah.
Gigi's like, take these tablets, you idiot. And
is he the true villain of this film?
Well, yeah, in a way. But then it's weird, isn't it? Because it's like, then you've got that end sequence. I don't know, because the whole thing is like really strange. He is kind of like, he is the villain in the sense of, I guess he is the antagonist, really, because he's the one that's kind of set the wheels in motion, really, and he's the real culprit behind it all, because Ichi is, in his own weird way, innocent because he like killed his parents or whatever, and he's just a complete mental fuck up, and he's been exploited by Gigi, who is obviously, and that's what I quite liked about him as a character, is he comes across as this unassuming guy with like a smile and like very humble, but then like, it's great acting, because then late as the scenes go on, as the movie goes on, you see him and he looks like a lot more like calm, collected and evil in some of the scenes and shots. I mean, he's like shouting at Ichi and all this stuff. and playing into that villainous type role, then it's like, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I won't go into the ending just yet, but I suppose he is the true villain of it, I guess. But then, yeah, there isn't really a villain. There isn't really like a hero. You think kind of like the bodyguard is the hero in a weird way, the ex-cop.
The ex-cop. Yeah.
But then doesn't really do anything heroic. In fact, the whole thing, he's like, because they're like, dude, why don't you just like go away, take your kid and run off? And he's like, my kid was just going to have to learn for himself. Like, I'm here to like protect this guy. And again, there's that thing of like power and the fact that it's like, I mean, the whole thing with him, right, is that he lost his gun. He was a cop that lost his gun. And
they make a big thing about that, don't
yeah,
they?
Because it's the phallic gun, right? He's literally lost his dick. He's lost his...
Oh, here we go.
It is. That's his, I mean, it can't be more fucking on the nose than with this. He's literally lost his erection. He's impotent in each and every way. And then, on top of that, he's having a meal with his son. And his son's like, Mum ran off with another guy, didn't she? But I'll stay with you, or whatever. So it's like, there's that added onto it. It's completely emasculated by the fact that he's been cuckolded, let's say.
Yeah.
And then you've got that flashback scene where he's getting beaten up by some pimp because he owes money, and he's saved by the yakuza. Basically, he becomes one of their heavies.
Yeah. Also, he says to Ichi,
his manhood again.
He says, "Hurry up and eat those noodles, or they'll get soft."
It does, yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, but there's definitely, I think there's something in it. But there's also like loads of weird stuff where it's like one of these fat guys who just keeps constantly taking drugs, and he's just like found in a TV at one point, talked about like just this irrelevant but really weird detail, the fact that he had a face transplant.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I used to work for these guys, and then I had to change my face. Like, what? And
that felt like a sort of like artifact from the manga. Like maybe that guy's like a bigger character, and there's a bit more of a backstory to that.
Yeah, it's more just included it.
It's like it was just totally like, and that's. Do you feel like this film's too long? And there's bits that could have been edited, and everything about him could have just gone.
Yeah, I mean, he's not in it that much. I suppose, like, talking about the length of it, it's 2 hours, but after the first, 40 minutes, I was like, this film's ending soon, isn't it? Like, where does this film go? And it doesn't. But I think that, one of the things with the pacing is that it's absolutely, relentless. It feels like every single scene is, 20 seconds or something. So I was never bored. I was never looking at it thinking, oh, God, hurry up. Because it was as soon as one thing catches your interest, you're onto something else. But just with that guy in particular, I love the way he's found in the TV with all the needles and shit in him.
That was a cool scene.
Just in the dump, dumped in the middle of Japan. No one gives a fuck. No one cares at all. And
that was brutal.
Yeah, it's really, really cool and horrible at the same time.
It's better than some of the the silly gore because it's a bit more. It feels a bit more real.
Yeah,
it does look like a gangland hit.
Yeah,
it's just the fact it's they're broad daylight. Something deeply troubling about it.
Just out with the rubbish like nothing.
The other thing about the pacing is these characters being introduced at different stages in the film, and by the end, I don't feel like I can get invested in any more characters or puzzle out who the hell they are or what their backstory is or anything. These two, and the twins that are corrupt policemen.
They get brought in halfway through
with masks.
Yeah, and
you don't know who they are.
Suddenly they're the main characters by the end.
Yeah, by the end. Well, they come into the hospital scene, don't they? And they're going to kill that Suzuki guy.
Yeah.
But you don't really know who they are, and you don't see their faces.
But they look quite cool because they've got this they've got bits or whatever hanging off these weird. They've got the plastic mask things. I always think of them in the Nirvana in Bloom, the original one. And they've got these weird things on this hat thing and these long blue coats. And I was okay, they look quite interesting, but who are they? I don't understand who they were, and by the end, I didn't really understand who they were either.
They were just I think because he said, "Oh, I'll get my like police contacts in." So I think they were like corrupt policemen.
Mm.
But again, they just seem to have this like really sadistic bent.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, it's just too much. It's like, here's another couple of guys that just like get off on ridiculous levels of violence. That's their only like reason to live.
There's that
when one of them
bit-
dies, the other one's like, oh, I was looking forward to killing him.
Yeah, weird.
One day.
Yeah, that was when it's kind of going off the rails a little bit. But
Well, it didn't speak like that, did he? They had really, whoever's doing the voice acting for them, it was really laying it on.
Yeah. Yeah, there's
I was looking forward, I was going to kill him one day.
Oh, God, just all of them, all that lot, even Clive Owen. There was that one bit where they grab one of the guys and like, yeah, Kakashi, whoever, is like throwing the needles at him just haphazardly, and he's just got these fucking needles like through his, which makes no sense. And then like they go off to find Ichi or whatever, and then one of the twins comes back. He's like, I wonder if I can rip your arm off. It just does it.
Yeah.
And there's another scene where like Kakihara is just squeezing the guy's cheek and then stretching it out. She looks weird. And then the woman, Karen or whatever, comes in.
She's like, can I join in?
Yeah. They both just got the side of this cheek, and this guy's like, ah. And it's like, that scene just wasn't needed at all. It's literally just for comedy effect. It's just like violence. It's like slapstick taken to the extreme. It's so weird.
That arm thing, and that happened really quite late in the film. That was like one of the points where I was like, I can't be bothered with this. Like, I'm bored of it.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know if that's like the point of the director is trying to just like desensitize you to all this like mindless violence or something. Maybe that was the point. I don't know. I was really just like, oh, here we go again. He's going to pull the arm off.
Yeah.
I'd rather just moved on.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I know what you mean. I guess like one of the things I did like about it that they kind of explored, but I found quite interesting was and because I'm just reading about how like there's that scene where Karen is trying to like beat up Kakihara, who's just like, your punches have no love or whatever. Like, you have to punch like you're trying to kill me. And I quite enjoyed that like self-destructive nature, because it's like, okay, it plays into the fact of like, he's lonely, like essentially like the one person who could do this for him. It's why it's so weird, because it kind of does work on this level of like these like lost souls that are like like a rom-com that like meant to be together or something but have never met. But except this time when they do, it's kind of a disaster. But like he's annoyed because the boss, his like one love or whatever has died, and he can't like can't get the same kick basically that he used to, and he's like, Ichi's the one that's going to do it for me. And I enjoyed that kind of aspect to it. But yeah, it did, having just those scenes where he's like chained up and he's like, come on, hit me harder. You're like, I was watching it going like, oh God, this is a bit too much, but at least this is kind of some character development maybe. Whereas stuff like with the arm, as you said, it was like, yeah, that's just something to do. Like, it's not really anything in that.
Should we come to the kind of like the almost conclusion, the kind of like final confrontation?
Yeah, I'm just thinking if there's anything else. Just kind of going through my notes a little bit, but I think we've kind of gone through everything. I mean, just the idea is like Ichi wants to rid the world of bullies and all this stuff. As you were saying, that it's supposed to be like heroic or whatever, but really ultimately it's just a completely selfish act. I've got one bit here which made me laugh, reading it back, when the bodyguard I like the bit where it's like Ichi goes in and kills all these people and there's just a face that slides down the wall, like he's perfectly sliced off the front of her face, which is quite funny. But
that's quite nice.
The bodyguard is like burning all these bits of bodies or whatever at the top of the roof. And his kid is like kicking some grass, being like, yeah, I'm going to beat up those bullies or whatever. And I was thinking, just read this note here of like, why is he burning bodies in front of his kid? Like, you'd want to be like, go somewhere else. It's just like, you know, like, here, son, come with me. I've just got to burn these bits of dead people upstairs. I hope that's fine.
I think he seems oblivious, though. The kid. I don't think he knows what he's doing, maybe.
Yeah, maybe he's
does he?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's just used to it. I don't know. Is there anything else you kind of wanted to go over before we go into the end?
No, the ending for me was probably I was quite confused. There's two confusing things going on. So it's probably the most interesting bit.
Mm. Yeah, so, by the end, like, Gigi has sent Ichi to basically kill everyone. And he's working his way through this, like, yakuza tower, basically, to kill everyone. And Kakashi, whatever his name is walking around like, oh my God, he's close. This is great. He's walking around going, I'm scared. Like, this is great. I've never felt scared for like ages. Like, I'm really looking forward to this. And he can't wait for like Ichi to appear. And when Ichi does appear on the top of the roof, and this was like quite interesting because they had like bits where they slowed the footage down and then played the music in reverse, and then would kind of speed it up and then slow it down and do it in reverse again. And I was like, I quite like that because it's something a bit different. And they've got some quite cool shots because it like looks up and the camera goes up, and then you realise you're like Ichi's POV and you see him like rise into the air. And again, it's all a bit manga-ish or whatever, but I quite enjoyed it. But yeah, basically you think they're about to have this final showdown and they don't. Basically they don't.
There's a little swerve, isn't there?
Yeah. Go on, you carry on.
Well, so Gigi calls Ichi and tells him, if you see this guy, the guy that was nice to you, that bought you noodles, he's your long-lost brother and you have to show him respect.
Mm.
Which he completely believes. So when he finally has comes eye to eye with Kakihara, for what we, the audience, feel naturally is going to be this like big, satisfying confrontation, the other guy, the ex-cop, now Yakuza, pops up behind, points a gun at him, and Ichi just kind of goes to pieces because he's broken-hearted.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't remember, he's like, what are you doing? Why would you do this to me?
Yeah, it's like, we're brothers.
And it's great because actually, like Kakihara, all of this anticipation he's been building up, you can just feel it.
Yeah.
Draining out of him, because it's draining out of you as well, because you're sort of feeling a bit disappointed as the audience that you're not getting that payoff.
Yeah, you're like, literally, what is going on? What's happening?
And Ichi's just like completely just ignores him, like completely blanks him, and just talking to the other character like, why are you doing this to me, brother? And he's brokenhearted. And I thought, oh, this is going to be sort of the end probably. But then he just shoots him in the knee, and Ichi goes apeshit and kills him in front of his son, the son who had previously been rescued from the bullies by Ichi. So then he's now conflicted because Ichi's been shot in the knee, and he's hurt by
the emotional trauma that's just happened.
Yeah. He's just like weeping like a big baby on the floor. And Kakihara hasn't given up on this, like his dream of this really intense battle. So he's just like, kind of like, not even shouting at him, just like, hey, come on, Ichi, come on, you can do it. Get up, exactly. Put up a good fight. All this. And at one point, like, he turns around, and it's just like the most pathetic image of this guy lying on the floor with this little kid just like kicking him in the ribs.
Exactly. Again, it's gone for like the comedy. It's gone for the comedy angle.
That is good, that bit.
Yeah.
And then, so this is the bit that I think is open a little bit to interpretation. So I'll tell you what I thought I saw. You can tell me if I'm right. Ichi takes these sharp needles out and pokes them in his ears. So I don't know if he does it to deafen himself because he's sick of hearing him.
Yeah.
Or if he was going to actually attempt to like pierce his brain and kill himself. But whatever happens, he doesn't get that far. Or he seemingly doesn't get that far. maybe he does, and at that point dies, and has this kind of, you see then his like fantasy play out of what he wanted to happen. What he sees is that Ichi has like risen from the floor. He's cut the head off the little boy, and that they have a little battle. And Kakihara imagines he gets the boot in the head. He's got a big split, and that he falls to his death. But then when you see his body on the ground, which is discovered by Gigi, there's no cut in the head, which suggests then maybe he just punctured his brain and fell back off the building. And Ichi's probably just still lying, curled up in a ball, weeping while that boy kicks him.
Yeah.
Is that how you read it?
Yeah, so, yeah, basically, pretty much. So, yeah, I think that the ears thing was to, like, stop the crying. Basically, he's got his comeuppance in that he wanted, essentially, like, they were evil, but he wanted this, like, big battle, like we did, but he wanted to feel, like, the pain and all this stuff. And ultimately, he didn't get what he wanted. So he's actually been defeated in that, in that sense. And, yeah, I think, like, the crying and stuff was just, yeah, obviously it's irritating to us watching it. But for him, by putting those things into his ears and stopping the crying, he's essentially blocked out the patheticness of who Ichi actually is, and the rest becomes this like dream sequence. So I think kind of like the ears, punching the ears thing is kind of like, because of the crying, it's kind of like a metaphor for like, I'm just going to ignore it and I'm going to live out my own thing, and then just, yeah, throws himself off the balcony or whatever and to his death. But yeah, that shot of him standing there with the kid's head or whatever, like in his hand, I was like, oh, that's a cool shot. I was like, oh, okay, shit's going to kick off. And it does kick off. So there's an element of where they've tried to cheat it, where like you as an audience have got something, but because it's like a fantasy thing, ultimately it still means that he didn't get what he wanted. So he's been, you know, defeated as well as you've kind of got what you wanted. But yeah, then he falls down. And Gigi like looks at him, whatever, and like looks up like with this solemn face. And then I was like, okay, so is he like, it's over? Because he was the last one that was on the hit list. And is he like, just like, yeah, I'm out or whatever, like I'm done, like everyone's dead or whatever. So just hangs himself, like, or maybe he thinks that Ichi's dead and hangs himself. I don't know, like that bit I was a bit... I don't know, because there's the final couple of shots where it's like Kakihara or whatever is like sitting in this blue swimming pool or sauna or something, and his mouth falls open, which is so... The CG is so shit anyway in this film, but it was like, oh, okay, so is that... I don't really understand that. Is that him in like the afterlife or something? And then you see the hanging body with all these school kids going past.
Yeah, I didn't know how to interpret that little scene with Ichi. Not with Ichi, sorry. Kakihara.
Kakihara, yeah.
Because in my reading of the film, he's definitely dead. That final scene where you see, the children like in the park, and it pans up and Gigi is dead. You see his body hanging from a tree. It then pans down and there's a young man with the children, and he looks around and looks at the camera. And I think that is the ex-policeman's son. So...
But he's like older, isn't he?
Yeah, so this is like some time has passed. And I think this is like the whole, this is like the violence only ever brings violence, because of course the little boy saw his dad get killed by Ichi and was kicking Ichi. And now he's grown up to be like the next, mad killer.
Right.
And he's gone after Gigi and killed him.
Right. Okay, yeah.
That was what I thought.
That makes sense, yeah. Yeah.
But that doesn't explain. My question then is, what happened to Ichi?
Yeah, don't know. Good point.
Because the last we see him, well, we see him carrying the boy's head, but that is a fantasy
real.
of Kakihara. So
that,
last we see him is just lying on the...
Yeah.
He's only been shot in the knee.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's left open for a sequel. But they made a prequel, apparently, which I don't think I saw. But yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. And just that scene of like Kakihara or whatever, just sitting in that blue thing. I do think that was like death, I suppose. But I suppose because his like mouth fell open, I was like, what does that mean? I thought, well, I suppose that's him smiling, right? But it's his like pain smile. And I think it's trying to suggest that he's like happy, if that makes sense, because he's got that kind of, that's why he's got the cut things, whatever, like, I don't know, it's like a pain thing, and it's not like a smile of happiness. It's his own way of smiling. And I suppose it's to suggest that he's still alone, but he's like, all right, like he got what he wanted. I don't know, like, fuck, who knows?
I'd love to know, if anyone's listening to this and they've read the manga and they can shed any light on these final few scenes, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Drop us an email or whatever.
Yeah, and if you're Clive Owen, can you let us know if you did the voiceover? Cheers. Okay, cool. Well, should we take a little trip to Nerd Corner?
Oh, yeah, I love it there.
Let's do it. And here we are in Nerd Corner. Dan, what have you brought to the corner? What have you sneakily hidden under your jacket and brought to me whilst I'm standing here shirking? Shirking a word?
Shirking and...
Lurking and shirking.
Like Ichi on the balcony.
Yeah.
I have brought a compact disc.
Oh.
All the way back from 2001. One of my favourite things about this film was the soundtrack.
Yeah.
I thought it brought a lot to the package.
It's quite punky, a bit noisy. There was some kind of like, it's quite funny because some of the electro stuff did sound a bit like the Red shit that we were talking about last week, which is literally like that same time. But yeah, the noisy shit was good.
I thought it sounded a bit like the Boredoms. Do you know that band?
No.
They're like fairly well known Japanese like noise pop band of the, I think, late 80s and then the 90s,
right, into
the noughties. So anyway, I looked it up, and it's not the Boredoms, but it's most of the Boredoms.
Okay.
Without the main singer, who kind of like bellows over the top of everything.
Right.
So they got together and basically formed a band called Carrera Musication. It was one-off just to do the soundtrack. So it's actually all by one band, all this different music, which, it's really diverse, everything that you've just mentioned there. And I mean, it's a great gift to the director, isn't it? Because there's so much diversity to be able to like match that music up to different scenes. Anyway, this CD, the soundtrack, was released in Japan 15th of December 2001, and it's never been released in any other countries. It's never been repressed or reissued in Japan, so it just came out this one time.
Right.
So you can already tell what I'm thinking, Sam.
Final.
Another opportunity for our fledgling record label when it gets going. I mean, how cool would this be? Record store day, first time on vinyl, Ichi the Killer soundtrack.
I would be genuinely, if I saw that, genuinely interested.
On tongue-coloured vinyl with blood red splatters.
Yeah. But it's black. The record itself, you could do a version where it's black with just the number 1 in yellow or whatever, like he's got painted on the back of his fucking skater. Shit.
There's so much opportunity for... There are strong visuals, aren't there, throughout this film?
Yeah.
That would be really fun for like team packaging and stuff.
Yeah. That's good.
So yeah, it's only ever available on this one CD. And the CD packaging, it doesn't have any track listing on it. However, the songs somehow have been assigned titles.
It's on Spotify.
It's not on Spotify. It's not on any streaming services. They're on YouTube, some of these songs.
That's a streaming service, but yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, go on.
The complete album is not available through formal channels. Formal channels.
Okay. Sir.
Anyway.
Excuse me, sir.
I had to
Pardon for being so formal. Sorry, go on.
I had to go and see my back alley people to get a copy of this.
Oh, God. Jesus.
You don't know the lengths I've been to.
Exactly.
Fucking get.
What did you do there?
I had to be like, I've got a sadomasochistic fetish that you can take advantage of if you want.
Have you
got a copy of
Ichi?
Yeah.
The Killer. Sorry.
Would you care to hear some songs?
Titles. Some songs, yes, let's do it.
Let's hear this one, which is popularly known as Space on Space.
Mm. That's quite jazzy, that one. It's like really
very
weird, mystical vibe to it.
I thought, I don't really know anything about traditional Japanese music, but I assume that that's what it's based on. But it also sounded a lot to me like African music, and the kind of electronics on this sound quite retro. So it did sound a bit like some of the kind of synthy Afro beat stuff I've been listening to from the 70s.
You know, who would have thought Ichi the Killer we'd be talking about Afro beat? But here we are.
I found
Ichi
it.
beat. Okay. Yeah, but I do kind of know what you're saying though. Yeah, it is nice. It reminds me of again, there's the Ghost in the Shell anime soundtrack and stuff, which I love, and it's similar to that kind of, as you were saying, playing with the traditional Japanese sounds, basically. Except Ghost in the Shell kind of it stays in the traditional sense, whereas this has been a bit more experimental, which is cool. It's a good one. What else should people listen to?
This one's a bit more of a rocker, Mind Chaser.
That's a good track. Enjoyed
it's
it.
all right, isn't it?
Yeah.
I suppose it just sort of demonstrates another facet of this soundtrack.
Yeah. Yeah.
One more?
Yeah, go on, one more.
Morning. Good morning. Did you enjoy that one?
Yeah. God, I fucking love Lolo. None of the Americans know what we're talking about.
It's massive in Serbia.
Is it? Lolo is honestly one of my favourite British comedies of all time. Fucking love it. Absolutely love everything about it. And he was one of my favourite characters. Basically, for anyone that doesn't know, Lolo was a BBC British comedy sitcom based in France during World War II, where it was the French Revolution, and they work at a cafe. But
what? Hang on, it wasn't the French Revolution.
Resistance. What am I talking about?
World
War II, the French Revolution.
Stormed in, and he stormed the Bastille.
Oh God, such an idiot. And they've got so it's all the kind of spy stuff mixed with just general hijinks and a bunch of idiots, and they've got proper posh British people who are just two idiots, and they've got an undercover French policeman who they basically take. It's quite clever in the fact that he's got his accent.
It's not clever. It's terrible.
It's terrible in the best way, but the sense that it's like it's obviously all in English, but they're doing it with like French accents, and he can't do the French accent right. So the idea being that he's not speaking French properly. He's not being that good at being undercover. So his whole thing is that he mispronounces everything. That's his whole shtick. And he comes in each episode, mispronounces everything, and then walks out. And his whole thing is the first thing he'd always do is come in and go, "Good morning." He always got a laugh.
Yeah,
from me.
A lot of comedy mileage out of that one.
Oh, loads. I mean, literally, it was every episode for like years. But
honestly, that was really big. I was in Belgrade, 2008. So long after Allo and its heyday. And I was talking to some girl that I met walking back after a night out. And she was like...
Do you like a lower?
No, she brought it up. She was like, "Oh, yeah. No, I saw... We were going past like a kiosk and there was like a magazine. You know these like magazines that are like with a free DVD? Yeah. It was like, Allo, the magazine. And if you buy every issue, you can build your Allo DVD collection."
Right. They used to show those things on TV, right?
Yeah, I was like, what is that? And she was like, "Oh, we love
DVD.
British humour here." And I was like, "Yeah, but it's Allo."
Yeah, one of the best British sitcoms of all time.
To which she was like, she was really affronted because she was like, "What, you think Serbian people can't enjoy good humour?" And after that, everything went downhill.
And she was including her body, by the sounds of it. She was never seen alive again.
I never saw her again after that.
Yeah. Hello.
She was too offended that I apparently slandered the whole nation's ability to enjoy good, high-quality British comedy.
Yeah, well, it's an on your own head, be it. It's your fault. Well, back to this track. What a lovely, nice little jaunt. It's a very pretty song, wasn't it? Didn't remember that being in the movie at all.
Yeah, a bit of sort of like classical kind of inflected thing here.
It's quite an eclectic mix.
It is indeed, yeah. If you're interested in like experimental post-punk noise with classical electronic elements, basically a smorgasbord of every kind of genre of modern music. Highly recommended. Check it out.
Cool. Well, let's go into our final impressions. So for me, because it's your turn to do impression.
Is it? God, is it? All right, fair enough. Yeah, you're right.
You cut out then.
You did the sperm.
It's your turn. That's right, yeah. So it's your turn. I'm just going to put clapping. So, yeah, it's your turn to do the final impression. So, I tell you what, I'll give you yours and you can think about it whilst I'm doing this. Actually, I'll give you an easy one. You do it as Ichi in the sense of crying and saying sorry a lot. So, as you mull that over, so Ichi the Killer, I thought had dated substantially, but I had a weird nostalgic glow for it. The violence was still quite shocking, I thought, but the fact that it was kind of completely OTT, I thought was actually quite fresh these days. I feel like I don't really see that kind of thing anymore. I really like the style and the colours and all this. I liked the pace, even though it's super fast and maybe it didn't really actually make all that much sense. It's not a must-see or anything like that, but I think it was quite an enjoyable little romp, and I can see why I liked it back in the day, but I think if you're coming in expecting some high-quality Japanese cinema, there's some other Takashi Miike films which are probably better suited for you. But overall, I liked it, actually. So, yeah, there you go. Damn.
I'm sorry, I thought this was going to be a really good film. But I found it so upsetting, but I did get a boner, but I couldn't come over it. I think maybe if you really want to have a properly good jizz, you should just get the original manga. It's probably sexier. I'm just so pathetic. Again, are you laughing at me, Sam? Are you? I'm gonna have to.
There's fucking blood everywhere. That's funny. God, I haven't seen you. I enjoyed
that. Audition's quite a good one of his, isn't it?
Yeah. I think
Takashi
Miike. Yeah, it was. Yeah, Audition's a good one. It's actually on the list that we've got.
Is it?
Yeah.
How handy.
There's that one's on there. I think there's a couple on there actually. Just because he does make some quite odd films, but yeah, I'd recommend like people to go off and see some Takashi Miike films. Like what else? Like Zatoichi is really good, but he didn't make that. I realised that's Beat Takeshi. So I've totally got that wrong. And so when I said earlier that he did Zatoichi, forget that because I've got it. I've just realised as I'm saying it. I've done that. I've completely got it wrong.
And did he do Takeshi's Castle?
That's Beat Takeshi.
Is that him?
Again, that's Beat Takeshi who did Zatoichi. He's done so much stuff. I mean, like, I can't tell you. I'm looking at these and I'm like, I don't even know what the good ones are because I don't even really, there's only a few that I actually. 13 Assassins was the last big one that I saw. That's 2010. That's really good. That's a samurai flick. It's quite violent. It's quite long, but in a good way. Zatoichi was 2007. So I lied again. Oh, he did the stage play. Oh, whatever. I don't know. Did he make it? Didn't he make it? I don't know. Whatever. Fine. Zatoichi. Go see it anyway. Fuck it. Sukiyaki Western Django was a good one. That was him as well. And then I'm just going through whatever stuff. He did one Mr. Cool. Okay, didn't realise that. Can't remember. Gozu, if it's what I'm thinking of, was pretty good. Yeah, Christ, he's done loads. Oh, Dead or Alive. He did the Dead or Alive trilogy. And that's what we were talking. You know when I said to you, you said, I watched DOA. And I was like, isn't that Korean? I was thinking of this.
Gotcha.
The Happiness of the Katakuri's. I need to see that. I've watched the first half an hour and I liked it. And
let's put that on our list because I've got that on DVD.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind.
And I haven't got around to watching it.
Yeah, I started watching it and then it was one of those things where it was late at night and I was like, I need to pay attention to this. Yeah, he did Audition, which is good, which is on there. Full Metal Yakuza, another good one. God, my God, he's done so many films. Absolutely ridiculous. And there's others, but that's the only ones that kind of stand out for me that were good. But he might have done tons more. That's the only ones I've seen.
It's like 100 films on this list.
It's ridiculous.
So. Busy boy.
He is a busy boy. Anyway, let's go and see what other people thought of the film in our review section.
I hate it.
So, Dan, I'm handing this over to you, buddy boy. Any decent, funny reviews in this film? What did people think? What did it get generally? What's the vibe?
Mixed bag. A lot of complaints about DVDs not working or not getting delivered on time.
As always.
Here's a good one. I thought quite apt. Jonathan, 1 star, says style over content and just not that stylish.
Yeah.
I've read other reviews on this page which make mention of the BBFC's cut of the film ruining it. However, I fail to see how any amount of missing footage could improve this film. The plot attempts to be clever, bringing together various interweaving tales of gangs, cops and schoolyard bullies, but just seems to do too damn hard, thus leaving the viewer baffled, not by the plot, but why they deemed necessary to throw these elements in.
Yeah. Is that the end of it?
He goes on to talk a bit more about some other things.
I mean,
a bit of a moany, grumbly man.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, there was like something like 11 minutes cut from the original for some countries, which is a fair old chunk because it's made up of some of the more gory bits. And I think some people had a problem with that because it kind of weirdly, by making the violence less cartoony and OTT, made it almost more real and would probably maybe work against it, if that makes sense.
I'll tell you who had a problem with it. Charles Wolfe.
Oh, that's it.
1 star.
Wolfe. Yeah.
Ichi the Killer is a stunning film. One of the more extreme and shocking films ever. A must. But this is not it! Ichi the Killer is an excellent movie that has to be viewed in its full uncut version. Anyone who likes Takashi Miike knows very well how far he goes with dark, violent, erotic and gory humour. He pushed the boundaries of cinema in a different league. Okay, for sure, you need a strong stomach to watch a few scenes, and some viewers might even find it offensive. Not me. The problem is, this is just what the BBFC have left of that movie. They cut a lot of scenes. In about 15 minutes a cut. But it's because it's been cut so badly that if you watch this version, I'd be surprised if you actually understand the plot.
Idiots. So great.
I love how you can go from essentially considering a film to be a 5-star film, but because you don't get your way, you rate it 1.
Yeah, so no one can see it. So you you would rather people never see it than see a cut version of it.
Let's see a good one.
Right.
Oh, I clicked on the wrong thing. There we go.
Dan? Jesus.
5-star. Here we go. Mark Roberts. 5 stars. Mad film. That's the subject.
It's a mad film. Find it kind of funny. Sorry, yes.
Proper good mad film.
God. Mad for it.
Oh my word, says Amazon customer. I'm watching Itchy as I'm writing this. So, not watching it then. And I have to say that it deserves its reputation of the most controversial film ever.
Right.
That's its reputation.
Okay.
Ever.
Right.
The story is of Ichi, the ultimate sadist who derives pleasure from killing people with a razor-sharp blade he keeps in his heel.
Yeah.
He's being manipulated by 4 people to kill off a yakuza boss and destroy his gang in a get-rich scheme. Did I miss that bit? It makes it sound like some old Ealing comedy.
Something like, yeah, exactly. Or he's like, some motivational speaker or something like that. Right.
On the other side, you have the Yakuza boss's right-hand man, the ultimate masochist. And you can easily tell his pleasure by the scars on his face. Open brackets, enlarge the cover of the DVD to see more, close brackets.
Just look at it closer. Yeah.
The standard cat and mouse formula is enhanced by director Takashi Miike's in-depth look into both sadism and masochism. Now the line between pain and pleasure, especially sexual, can be very thin. But don't expect an essay. Instead, expect computer graphics and very lifelike makeup to show people being tortured. One incident involving fishhooks and boiling oil will put you off shrimps for life. Mutilated and murdered in graphic and bloody ways. Seriously, you need to have an iron stomach to watch the film and not cringe in shock at some scenes. But if you can stand it, you'll enjoy one of Mike's most famous and darker films. Just don't put the English dubbing on. The mixture of Liverpudlian and London accents does not suit the film one bit.
Clive Owen wouldn't be able to hear that. I like the idea that it's this guy's like looking at a DVD cover and he's just like, enhance. Or whatever. Like Blade Runner or whatever. She's putting it closer to his face. Enhance. A bit closer each time. That quick question, like, why do you think the blade was in his heel?
You see a scene, I think 2 scenes where he's playing what looks to me like Tekken.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
one of the characters does that. He does that same maneuver.
Yes.
I don't know what it's called, but you basically do like a cartwheel and catch someone with the heel of your foot.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, I never thought about it. I never made that connection. That's interesting. So it's like a martial art kind of thing, which makes sense because it's like your leg's going to have more reach, I suppose, etc. Yeah, I think I want to say it's Hwoarang. Oh, from Tekken.
Hwoarang. Yeah, I remember that character.
Yeah, who was the jiu-jitsu. No, taekwondo guy. My God, my Tekken knowledge. It has to be Tekken 3 though. I don't know anything else. Any of the other Tekkens. Man, cool. Okay. Well, I think that's it really. Any other final thoughts? Yeah. Right, should we think about what we're doing next week?
Yeah.
Right, what is next? We're doing music. Music is next. Let's have a look. Have I taken Ichi off? I haven't. So let's take Ichi off. Again, guys, if you want to, you're more than welcome to submit your own ideas and we can add them to the list because this is all stuff that we either want to watch or that we've seen and we love. So feel free to throw something in there because then we wouldn't have seen it and we could give you a fresh take, which is unhingedpodcast@gmail.com or oddcastoddballs@gmail.com. Right, let's figure this out. Press the button even. Let's go. What's it doing? Okay. It's a big one. You might just have to pick one album or something. I think maybe they only did one album, but Green Jelly.
Oh, yes. Brilliant. Yeah. I'll have a think about. They did actually do quite a lot. Maybe we'll do like a little career overview.
Oh my God, I can't do another career overview. You're going to kill me.
No, but not listening. I can do a little potted career overview.
Right.
And then let's have a chat about Serial Killer and the Serial Killer soundtrack.
Okay.
Because that's the one that people know and love. That's your Three Little Pigs, your Anarchy in the UK, and your Obey the Cow God, and the Adventures of Shitman.
Oh my God, I have just realised that I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've heard these guys since I was in your bedroom. That you, just by saying those words, have just unlocked a little mini door in the back of my brain. All right, let's do it. Let's just do that. Let's concentrate on that one album and you can give a bit of an overview. Okay, cool. Well, that's it, everyone. So, we'll give the normal outro as always, but for the personal touch, do go to patreon.com/newwinter to support the network. Dan is on Dreadful. What's your Instagram handle again?
Dreadful Discs.
Dreadful Discs. You can email us newwinterpodcast@gmail.com, as I said, or oddcastoddballs@gmail.com. Listen to the other shows that we do. We've got On the Record with Des and Jeff, which me and Dan do, which we need to do another one later. We've got the New Winter Limited series on there as well, which is the audio drama that kind of started it all, which you can go and listen to. And that is purely the audio drama stuff, which might be your bag, who knows. And there's some other bits and pieces as well. And the newwinter.com site isn't working and hasn't worked for a little while, and I'm trying to fix it, so apologies. But just go to patreon.com/newwinter if you want to, and they've got links and stuff there. But we're on all your podcast platforms of choice. And if you're listening to this, you know that anyway. So you've made it this far, then I think you're fine. Okay, cheers everyone, and see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on the Oddcast, guys. We're part of a New Winter group, so head on over to newwinter.com to check out our other shows. Go to patreon.com/newwinter to support the network. You can email us at oddcastoddballs@gmail.com and follow this and our other shows on Twitter and Instagram @anewwinter. So, see you next time on the Oddcast.